welcome back to Meet the Experts. We are with ER Nurse Jenn, the author, entrepreneur, and creator of Nursing Intuition. And we're going to talk all about nursing intuition today. Welcome, Nurse Jenn.
Kasey, it's so nice to see you again.
Yes, very nice to have you. Now, you gave us this book on the retreat, and I had an opportunity to actually go through the book and realize it's amazing, amazing, amazing. It's it's a book like no other because it's almost like a workbook for you. It's gorgeous. So let's talk about some of the highlights in the book and
Okay.
some of the interesting parts. So you talk about, first of all, for the nurses who are looking in, what would you say intuition? How would you describe intuition?
Yeah, intuition is the mix where, your expertise is running up against your logic. And so sometimes it happens so quickly that you're just not catching it, but your
Mhm.
body's trying to tell you that before your brain can kind of catch up. So that deep feeling in your gut that's super heavy, that's weighty, then you're like, why am I feeling like this? It can be kind of a little bit of chest heaviness where it's just kind of enough to kind of get you to pay attention. It can be thoughts that pop into your head. So especially at triage, I'll start asking questions that I wouldn't routinely ask at triage, but all of a sudden I'm going down a different path from what I would typically ask somebody. So it kind of comes in all different forms, and the key is just to start listening to yourself and trusting it.
How important do you think it is for leaders to help newer nurses to cultivate intuition and not dismiss them?
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, and intuition, it isn't just applicable in nursing. There's books been written about intuition use in the business world and in real estate and, trusting your gut when it comes to deals and that kind of thing. Like it's not just medical, it's not just nursing, it's all encompassing. And I mean, we as women, we know this feeling intimately and probably have been since about age 12. You're walking into a room, there's just like somebody in the corner, you're like, I don't know about that. Like, they haven't said anything, they haven't done anything, you've never even met them before, but you've
Mhm.
just got this overall sense of, I just need to either be careful or I need to get out.
Yeah.
And usually intuition for us, as we normally know it, is related just to self-preservation as a whole. But when you can take that and then bring it into nursing, it can be a very powerful tool to help you kind of recognize when things are happening with patients, either they're deteriorating or maybe there's a situation with a patient who they're not outwardly violent, but you kind of get the sense that something could go sideways if you're not too careful, like, so that you just make sure that your own personal safety is number one and you're taking steps when you wouldn't typically. Had this happen the other night where somebody was triaging and I just, nope. They are waiting in the waiting room till the doctor is ready to see them. They are not here for a life-threatening injury. Their injuries suggest that maybe there was an assault involved, and they are just giving me huge creep vibes.
Yeah.
Nope. You are going to wait in the waiting room. I'm not going to send you down to x-ray because it's the middle of the night and there's only one female x-ray tech down there. I'm going to walk you down myself. Security is going to be in behind us. We're all going to go.
Yes.
And that's not
Yes.
something I normally do. And I haven't gotten the feeling like that in a very, very long time. But it was
Yeah.
just one, like, I don't want to give this guy, more than an inch because he'll take a mile.
Yes. And I think for in the book, when the position you bring in this intuition, it's not just a woo woo, it's deep work. Like you talk about shadow work, you even talk about, which I think is hilarious, you talk about nursing specialties and their abilities, and you go into like let me just give a little bit of, if I have permission to read from your book.
Please
So
do.
you say emergency room is 5% OCD, 95% undiagnosed ADHD. Operating room, 100% OCD. Think Monica from Friends on steroids.
Yes.
ICU is 90% OCD and 10% ADHD.
Yep.
Post recovery room, 90% OCD, 5% ADHD, and 5% generalized anxiety disorder. Med
Yep.
surg, 50% OCD and 50% ADHD.
Yep.
This is really interesting. I love this one. You put pediatrics, 100% have patients of a saint.
Yes. I've worked peds. I've worked a strictly peds ER before.
Uh-huh.
Kudos. Absolute kudos. And it's not just like, patients of a saint for the patients. It's not the patients that are the problem. It's the parents. These poor parents were having to peel them off the ceiling
Yeah.
most of the time. And having been a first time parent previously, I understand it. I've had to peel myself off the ceiling sometimes. I've had to peel my husband off the ceiling once or twice. But it's a lot for one little person that all of a
Yes.
sudden you've got potentially 2 to 4 very large personalities coming in because you've got grandparents or other siblings or all these other factors. You get the whole family meal deal. You don't just get the patient.
Yes. This is incredibly awesome because if like you have to really know yourself to know where you're gonna land. And
Yeah.
this requires you knowing yourself and you knowing how you like to work. This is really
Yeah.
cool. I,
Well, it makes sense, right? Like the ER works, and again, I speak to the ER a lot only because that's been my life for the most of my career. It I work very well with the 12 tabs open or things going on where I don't know what's going to roll in the door in the next minute. I have to be okay with that. I have to be able to bounce from task to task to task without it being potentially perfectly finished or leaving a patient with something half done because an emergency's come in and then come back to that later and remember to come back to that later.
yeah.
It's a lot of back and forth where those of us with diagnosed, undiagnosed ADHD, we thrive on that. That's great. That's dopamine hit after dopamine hit versus the ICU or the OR. Like the OR, like God bless those guys. They are so meticulous and so
Yeah.
organized, and everything happens exactly as it's supposed to. Obviously things can go wrong in the OR, but for the majority of the time, it is a well orchestrated symphony of step by step by
Mhm.
step. And it is cold and it is slow, and that is not how I operate.
Yeah,
Literally.
it doesn't work for you. This is
Does not.
wonderful. You did an excellent job with this book, and I really love it because I think it was going to be a beautiful gift for any new nurse.
Thank
And
you.
I really think you go for nurses who've been in nursing for a long time. I think it could even be insightful because, for example, the nurses who nursed during COVID, you talked
Yes.
about the emotional impact. You actually didn't talk about it, but you use journal prompts so that they can talk about it. They can
Yes.
talk about how they felt. They can talk about what they experienced.
Yeah.
Beautiful job, Jen.
Thank you. I mean, I personally know that we haven't even scratched the surface of what COVID has done. And as you and I witnessed at NurseCon,
Mhm.
there is a lot of healing that needs to be done, and we are nowhere near, I think, ready for
Yeah.
it. So it's going to take a lot of time to unpack that and come to terms with what the heck happened.
Yes, yes. And you are pioneering this. You are at the forefront. You're talking about bullying. Something that doesn't shock me is even older nurses are still bullied. After maybe
Yeah.
40, 50 years, they're still
Yes.
experiencing bullying.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the new nurses who come in who are the problem. And again, this is what happens when you take a lot of personalities and put them in high intensity environments. People's
Mhm,
buttons get pushed. There's a lot going on. Nursing itself is very, very taxing. And so
mhm,
unfortunately, sometimes we do take it out on each other when we really, really shouldn't. But
mhm.
there's nothing to say that a new nurse can't bully a veteran nurse. Like it happens. I've seen it.
Yes. So this is really, really good. So Jen, someone who is looking at your book, and I'm just gonna put it up here because I love to show and tell. So if
Uh,
the diagram of box breathing, with my teams when I go in, I really encourage them to breathe. And you do a whole little kit here about breathing and meditating, and then to the bottom you're like, well, just try it, which really
that's
brings
it.
your personableness. It's not a text. You are a real person, real nurse, and you just want them to try it, you
Yeah.
know?
Because sometimes we just get in our head, about, oh, I can't do that, I don't have the time, or I don't have the mental clarity to do that. I'm crap at meditating, absolute crap at it. What I'm great at is listening to a guided meditation before I have a nap. That
Mhm.
works. That clicks me out of my head. I've got something to listen to. It's a soothing voice. I can focus on something else.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Mhm.
Sensory deprivation tanks, where you go into a saltwater tank, you float, it's black, it's pitch black, there's no sound, and you are forced to do
Mhm.
nothing but float there. And you better believe your mind goes, and it takes a good couple of sessions before you figure out, or you run through everything that you could possibly run through, to the point where you're like, okay, now I can just actually enjoy the moment. And the reset of that is phenomenal. I would highly recommend anybody who's just looking to try something. The sensory
Yeah.
deprivation tanks are a good time.
I love them. I absolutely love them. And you also, I work in hospice, so we deal with a lot of deaths. But you actually go through your story of your first death and how to prepare for that, for nurses. They may not. So you talk about grief, and grief is something that we all grieve differently.
Yeah,
And someone might, even though you go through school, you know the things, you may not be ready for your emotional response to
yeah,
grief.
yeah. Because again, nobody teaches you. We don't see that in nursing school. We're very lucky if we actually see a death in nursing school, to the point where we can then bring it back and talk about it and debrief a little bit, and have support that way. I think that's probably one of the reasons why, as traumatic as that death was, it wasn't it wasn't the thing that pushed me out of nursing. It wasn't that thing that was so catastrophic that I couldn't go on. Not to say that I didn't deal with it for 15 years, um, but it reminds me that I can be that kind of nurse. And
Mhm.
I do hold on to that sometimes as kind of a guidepost, to be like, I know that I can do this because I did this as a student. As a student, I did this. So I can do this. There is that capability to be that kind of nurse, that I want to be, that I aspire to be. It's just sometimes I have to remind myself that she's in there.
Yes, yes, yes. And it comes out. So what would you say for the nurse who's looking in at this podcast and saying, wow, I really wish I have that support, or I really wish, because let's be honest, some places you work, you have great support, great
Yeah.
encouragement, and other places that you work, you have nothing. What would you say to
Yep.
the who is not well resourced or well supported?
Yeah. There are a million groups on Facebook. There are a ton of groups on LinkedIn. I thought going on LinkedIn as a nurse, I didn't feel like I was in the right place. I thought I don't belong here. This is for professionals, that kind of thing. But getting on there and getting into some of these nursing groups, oh my God, the support is absolutely phenomenal. I've never felt so supported as a nurse, and especially as a nurse entrepreneur and writer. I've never, all of a sudden you're having calls with people like you, and we're meeting up, and it's like, oh, hey, I can't really do anything for you, but like, hey, try these 3 people, and here's 3 more names of people. I'll connect you, I'll send you an email, you will get you on calls with them. And then all of a sudden you're meeting those people, and sometimes you're making phenomenal lifelong connections with people who you've never met in real life.
Yeah.
And it's the funniest thing, because they can provide a little bit of support and make it not feel so lonely sometimes.
Yes, and you know what? I always have to say the disclaimer. I tell everybody, we don't work for LinkedIn.
No,
We don't
no,
work for LinkedIn. We
no.
don't pay
Nobody's getting a payout. There's no affiliate link. There's
no,
nothing.
nothing. But honestly, the community there for nurses is like none other. And sometimes I forget that it's not like that on the outside. I forget about it because you get on LinkedIn and you have like super like executive people, and they're cheering you on and encouraging you. And they, and so I work as a branding expert. So what I do is I help people see themselves the way, see the beauty and the value within themselves. Because sometimes it's
Yeah.
hard, especially if you're wearing scrubs and you don't dress up for work. You may not think
No,
of yourself as an expert, but you really are, right? So I help them.
100%.
Yeah, I pull them out. I say, come on, you are the expert. Now let's show up like it, right? Let's show up
Mhm.
like you're the expert.
Yeah.
So when you go onto LinkedIn, when people are looking at you, it's not like a job where they see all these hierarchies, but they see that you're an expert in something that they're not.
Yeah.
And it's a very different interaction than even an in-person interaction.
Yeah.
Hmm. So, Jen, I want to pick your brain because I have you
Okay.
here. And if we can talk about some of the things that you are doing,
Always.
because
Always.
I I know you're dabbling into AI, and I'm just really curious as to what you see or what you would like to do in this AI space.
Oh my gosh. I'm just happy to actually have found AI and be able to kind of mess with it. ChatGPT is life.
I
If you're
love
not using ChatGPT like Google, you're missing out.
it.
Honestly, to take patient symptoms and put them into ChatGPT, you're going to get a much more rounded answer with differentials.
Mhm,
And then you can ask it. So you put in this patient, case study, and you're like, okay, so what could be going on, and it spits out all the answers, and then
mhm,
you can say, okay, well, what would the nurse do next, or what would you anticipate next, and you can play with it, and once you load it with the information that you want to pull from to kind of give it a reference spot, you can play with it, and it is so much fun. There's also custom chat gpts on the side that you can
mhm,
search. So just recently I was like, oh, I need to do kind of a literary search for nursing resilience and why people are leaving after 2 years. And so I went into the little side chat GPTs, and there's a research assistant. So I can
yeah.
pop in, I can take the link from the study that I want. I take the link, I pop it into chat GPT. It comes up with a nice little summary. And then I do another one and another one, and another one. I did like 38. Then I'm like, okay, what are the correlations? What are the themes that are all these different papers are finding? And sure enough, within 30 seconds it spits out a list of 10 things that,
Mhm.
these are all the different things that could be contributing to new nurse burnout and retention issues and this, that, and the other. And you're like, holy cow, this is fantastic. So then it's like, okay, well, I want questions to be able to assess how people are doing. Spit me out questions, and then all of a sudden I've got a whole pilot project made out of chat gpt without paying
So
for the masters.
amazing, amazing. So I'm gonna say this because I've always been against school because I felt like so much of school, doesn't matter what you went to school for, and I'm not against school, but I was against this. They measure intelligence by your ability to retain information. And
Yep.
now we're in the age where nobody can hold more information than ChatGPT
No.
because, well, GPTs, that AI, like it's giving us what took hours, months, weeks, years, it gives it to
Yeah,
us in seconds.
I
So
know.
now I am doing the show about everyday experts like yourself because what's going to happen is that it's really going to level the playing field. It's really going to level the playing field for people who are authentically intelligent, that people
Yeah,
who really see a problem and they want to fix it. Because now anyone can have access, and not saying that your schooling didn't help, but now you can, after being a nurse for how long?
17 years.
17 years. You can be up to date and fresh on all the things that you may have forgotten from nursing school, or it may have
100%.
changed.
100%. Like it's insane how much access we have, and it really does level the playing field. So now, I'm walking into boardrooms. I had a meeting today with intellectual property lawyers, and I'm in a pitch competition and all these things. I don't
Yes.
have a master's. I don't have a PhD. I
Yes.
have my bachelor's. And I honestly, there's a part of me that thinks, okay, this process would be a lot easier to do a pilot program, to do all these things, to be able to go through a master's program and get the master's. When in reality, there's a very large part of me that wants to do this as a bachelor or as a
Yes.
bachelor's, just to see if I can do it
I
and
love
not have to push forward to a master's where I'm not going to be using the master's every day. That's not where my career is headed. I'm staying at bedside. I'm going to be bedside part-time, but like I don't want to leave the bedside. That's not where I belong. I belong 50-50 in the world of education and writing, and then 50% of the bedside. That's my perfect mix.
Yes, and I'm not saying that there isn't any credibility to a master's or a doctorate.
Oh yeah.
I think where it's leveling the playing field is, Jen, you have come over here, you're in Canada, you have come over here to America to do conferences, speak to thousands of people, to go to these big conferences. And I really want to highlight your beauty because that's confidence. You could have a doctorate and not leave your house, or
Yes,
not vocalize
truly.
your ideas. You have had so much confidence. You put this into a book form. You put your thoughts there so that you're not just inspiring nurses on a one-to-one, but a one-to-many. Now everyone can access your thoughts. That's confidence. That's not a degree. And a lot of times as nurses, we get caught up in the credentials, thinking that the credentials is our credibility and validates our intelligence, when it is really who you are that makes
Yeah.
you great.
It's nerve wracking. I mean, you want to talk about soul laid out on a page? That's there she is. Like it's nerve wracking, but at the same time, if it helps one nurse feel seen, feel understood, all worth it. Every ounce of pain, every ounce of misery, every tear, worth it if I can help one nurse or one person even.
And I think it's beautiful because you alchemize all of your experiences, some of them which would have been maybe life defining, toughest
Yeah.
experiences of your life. You alchemize it now to a powerful tool. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for coming on the show as an everyday expert to
Oh,
share.
thank you.
I appreciate you. If anybody wants, I have asked Jen all of my questions, and I think the world of her. If you have any questions, maybe you're thinking about the emergency room, or maybe you're a nurse and you're iffy about your intuition, reach out and connect to Jen. She's very personable. I think I'm going to do a section on my website and just have some of these tools, some of these nursing tools, just right
Oh,
there so that they can, that there's a little toolkit because, you know, people buy gifts for graduation, right? They want to
yeah.
support the nurses. Girl, every nursing school graduation I go to, my husband is a
I
teacher.
know.
I'm gonna cry, crying because you know how hard they work to get there. So to
Yeah.
have tools that's really gonna help. For people to like really help, I definitely will want to have a little toolbox on my website.
Oh,
This will be in it.
thank you. Oh my gosh. I can't even.
Well, thank you for doing all that you've done. And I really, really enjoy interviewing you. Thank you for being our everyday expert. I know excellence is gonna come. You're gonna be doing this is just the beginning of a really exciting, exciting career in nursing. And new.
I'm just flying by the seat of my pants every day, all day.
Jen, I lived long enough to realize that most people are. Most
Fair
people
enough.
are. Mhm. So thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for writing this
Anytime.
book, and we will be in touch with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience, for joining, and we'll see you next week, Sunday at 4 Oh, I am going to change the time. I'm going to do a midweek Wednesday as well,
Ooh.
Wednesday at noon. So Sunday at 4 or Wednesday at noon, you could catch the replay. Thank you. Have a good one.